Welcome to Intriguing Beings, a new podcast with me, Rou Chater. Over the last 20 years, I have been lucky enough to meet and interview a host of interesting people. This summer, I decided to record some of these conversations for a new podcast. Episode 1 with Nick Jacobsen. Let me apologise up front for some of the audio in this clip. I recorded a few of these at the Kitesurfing Armada this year in the Ford Transit Custom van. However, when it came round to chatting to Nick, the weather had got so hot it was just unbearable, and we decided to hope for the best with the sound outside the van rather than sit inside it and melt. Nick's one of my favourite kite surfers. He burst onto the scene in 2011 with his first kiteboarding stunt. In this podcast, we chat about that very first crane jump and how it changed his life, and also look at his more recent jump off the massive hotel in Dubai. Discover how seriously Nick takes safety when he does these tricks, and how he deals with the fame it has brought him. We also chat about his relationship with Richard Branson, dealing with injuries and missing out on the King of the Air last year. Ultimately though, this conversation underlines how his out-of-the-box approach to kiteboarding has changed him, and arguably the sport of kiteboarding, for the better. I'll add some links to this podcast with all of the videos that we talk about and some other videos as well. So if you've not come across Nick and his incredible stunts before, you'll be able to check them out. I really hope you enjoy this episode. It's an incredible conversation with one of the most impressive kiteboarders on the planet. So I'm sat today, we've left the hot van, wasn't going to subject my next guest to that, but I'm sat with Nick Jacobsen, who is a very talented kiteboarder. He's become exceedingly famous on YouTube, I would say, for some of his crazy stunts, kind of like the Danny McCaskill of the kiteboarding world. So Danny does his crazy mountain bike tricks and Nick does his crazy kiteboarding tricks. I first came across Nick when I saw a video of him climbing up a crane that was attached to a rusting boat in South Africa with a kite in his hands, and I'm going to put the link for this video for anyone that hasn't seen it in the bottom of the podcast. But basically it was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen. Nick, what on earth made you think of doing that?
So do you want the honest story, or?
Yeah, let's go with an honest story and see where that takes us.
Yeah, right. So I was in Cambodia with my friend.
Yeah.
That's how it all came about.
Okay.
And I went to Cambodia to we bought a house, me and my friend.
Yeah.
To start a hostel. Just for the fun of it, and
yeah.
We're a bit, sick and tired of society, and when you reach that age, you're in the 20s, like in the beginning of the 20th, and you just, I think we're just at a stage where it's my best buddy, and we're just sick and fed up with, being like in that society kind of. We just wanted to like travel out there and see what
where
we.
It took you.
Yeah, in a way, and we're like, let's go to Cambodia, get a house there, and make a guest house, and just be ourselves,
Cool.
So without any, judgmental people around us, and we just wanted to get away from that society kind of thing. So we went there, and we got the house, and we started like a small guest house, and within 4 or 5 months, we quickly realized that okay, this is gonna cost a bit more money than we realized, and. So and we're a bit, over it already.
Really?
We're not,
after a few months.
Yeah, we're not.
The grand plan wasn't quite
exactly.
What it worked out to be.
It wasn't like this is the goal in life. Let's do this. It was more like a quick idea we had. Let's do this. Okay, got some tickets. We flew to Cambodia. We got the house. We set up this whole like camp there. And
yeah.
And at some point we just realized that this is not for us. Let's do something else. We didn't have any money. I think I had like a few thousand on my account.
Wow.
So we're like, well, I'm pretty decent in kiteboarding back then, and why don't we just go to Cape Town? Because I know my way around there. We can stay for free. We don't. It's gonna be fairly cheap to be there. My dad was there. He had a car we could use, and so we spent pretty much the rest of our money on a ticket to Cape Town. We went there in the beginning of the season in like October or so.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, so we're gonna be here for like half a year, and we don't really have any money, but we could try and benefit off my skill, which is kiteboarding.
Yeah.
So let's contact my sponsors. Maybe they wanna, pay us a bit if we make a video. And so we did that, and we got a few money into our accounts, and I did this crane jump the year before that, or 2 years before our Cambodia experience.
Okay.
So,
But didn't video it, or just
we did video it, and the thing is that as soon as we got back to the beach, all the camera equipment was stolen out of the car.
No.
Luckily, there was this Dutch guy, Dim, who filmed it with his small little handycam, like far
Okay.
away from, like all
Yeah.
shaky, and it looked like something that could have been animated.
Okay.
And
Didn't look real almost.
it didn't look real, no. So, and all the comments online, they're like, "Oh, it's one big hoax. It's just,
it's a
whatever."
faker.
So I'm like, this
This
wasn't a
is
hoax.
waiting for me.
This
I've
is,
gotta
I
do
mean,
it.
I have to do this before they blow up this ship,
Yeah.
because that was the initial plan. So what we did was I contacted Calucci's, which
Yeah.
is the local sandwich bar there, and I went in there. I know the owner, and it's like, hey, how would you like to team up with me and my buddy here? We can eat for free at your sandwich bar for the next like 4 or 5 months
Yeah.
till the end of our stay in Cape Town, and I'll bring a menu up and I'll be creative.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, if you do that, and if we can make you a few sandwiches, you can like put it in your wetsuit and like maybe have a bite when you're up there, whatever. Like
Yeah.
it's up to you guys. Whatever you want to create, you do that, and we have a deal. So you can
Eat
come
for
here,
free.
you can eat for free for the next few
This
months.
is brilliant.
So and I told Lewis, my best buddy there, and he was like, well, if you're up for it, I'll be filming. So, and that's how it came about again. Because then we would wake up every morning, go to Calucci's, have breakfast, go for a session, come back, have lunch at Calucci's, and then have dinner again because we didn't have any money.
Perfect.
We had a little bit, but it was a great alternative of trying to save a bit of cash. So that's how it came about. Not to get free sandwiches, but like
that was a byproduct.
Yeah. But just to for me to have that in my archive when I get old.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put a GoPro in my mouth, in the kite, everywhere. We gotta have all these different angles, and so we pulled it off again,
And to set the scene, this was an old rusting sort of tanker in the
Yeah.
bay off the coast of Bloberg, which is
Exactly.
in Cape Town, South Africa. And how high was the crane? Because
I think it was around 50 meters.
Wow.
Something like that.
So
like
that's pretty huge.
nothing too crazy, but still high enough to.
and you are climbing up this crane with a kiteboard attached by your kite leash.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of bouncing its way up behind
Yeah,
you.
and then
you're flying a kite
Yeah.
whilst climbing a ladder.
Yeah.
It's very rusty.
Yeah, I remember people riding on 7s and 8s on the beach, and I was on an 11,
Wow.
just to get that extra bit of lift. So, because I would be climbing with one hand, and obviously my feet, and the other hand I would have like on the bar
Controlling
all
the
the time.
kite.
And then I would go like from every time I would grab some rusty part on that crane, I would like grab something, and then put my hand on the release. Grab something, put my hand on the release, because I needed to like implement that movement from grabbing something on the rusty crane to being able to release my kite at any given time.
moment.
Because if the kite would,
Start looping or...
catch something on the crane or something, and I would have to release, I would be. I
were
just
ready.
prepared myself. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the kind of safety decision around it. Was,
Yep.
I'm
And I remember
being
the
ready to
board
ditch the
just
kite.
I remember the board just dangling around me,
Yeah.
because I had my leash on my spreader bar and then through the foot strap and then
Yeah.
attached to my back,
Yeah.
and it was just flying around. It
In
hit
the
my
wind.
shin so many times, and I was like, I was screaming because it was so sore. When the toe side just hits
Yeah.
your shin, whadang! It was so painful. But I was just very focused on things
And
not
you
going
got
wrong.
to the top, pulled the menu out, ate a sandwich,
Had a sandwich,
and
yeah,
then jumped off
and
this
we're
crane.
set for the rest of our trip.
And that was it. And was that the kind of... I mean, that was when I kind of first really noticed you as a kiteboarder, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
Was that when it blew up for you? Was that video sort
pretty
of went
much,
pretty
yeah,
viral?
yeah. That
And
went
then-
pretty viral because it's not only kiteboarding. It kind of broadens the perspective of,
the
audience.
And, who's going to watch that?
Yeah.
Anyone who thinks this is crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So that went pretty viral, and that's when I realized, okay, that was, I mean, not to sound arrogant, but that was fairly easy for me to do.
Yeah.
So if I, try and it's fun, it's super fun. I love to be very serious and focused when I do stuff like this. And for the viewer, it looks insane, and it looks like, whoa, this guy has got no brain, nothing. And I think, I mean, it's just fun. I really enjoy pushing the limits, like my own limits, and that's what I did. And I thought, if this can be some sort of way or direction that I could go without influencing too many. Because I don't want people to do the same as I do.
Yeah,
because I feel so confident that nothing will go wrong. Maybe someday, I don't know. But I'm praying not to. It's just it feels pretty easy for me to do all these
crazy
all the stuff that I do. Yeah, because I've been kiting for ages.
Yeah. So you've got great kite control.
Yeah, I don't even look at the kite anymore when I fly it. I just feel where it is.
Yeah.
And if you're at that stage, then I think you can try and be a bit creative. You can
do some kind of different things.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so, what was your next big trick you did? Because you've done some pretty.
I don't remember what exactly what came after the crane jump, but it was definitely an eye opener for me that I can go in a pretty easy direction in this, and people like it, and I like when people like it. I like to motivate people, especially the youth, and I like when people come up to me and they say, "Hey, well done on that. That looked crazy or insane," and hey, I got up on the board the first time last week because you motivated me to get on the board, and that's what drives me.
I guess because it's reaching that wider audience that you said. You're not just showing your videos to kiteboarders; you're showing your videos to young kids who then might go, God, I want to try a kiteboard.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a great motivation and a nice little pat on the back, I guess, when you get that feedback, and it gives you sort of affirmation that what you're doing is a positive thing, and it's good to do. I mean, the biggest trick you've done, well, I say trick, it's not a trick, the biggest stunt that you've done so far was probably jumping off the hotel in Dubai, would you say?
Yeah, I like, for me personally, definitely.
Yeah.
The production that came about it wasn't that satisfying for me to watch, because we had a very limited period of when I could jump and all the permits and all that stuff. So at the end it was more like, I need to do this.
Yeah. What's the name of the hotel again? It's the
Burj Al Arab.
Burj Al Arab. So for anyone listening, they can look that up. But carry on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it was it was more like an achievement that I needed to achieve this, because it was a funny idea that came about like 5 or 6 years ago.
Right.
And I've been trying to get all the permits for so many years, but they just never came through. And at the end, it was more like, I need to do this. I didn't feel the urge. I didn't feel the need to actually do it because it was fun or exciting. It was more like, I need to show these guys that I can get the freaking permits, And at the end, I got them, so I won. And then I was like, oh shit, now I need to do it.
Now you've got to jump off.
Yeah.
I mean, how high was that one? Because you basically pumped your gear up on top of the helipad, which is at an altitude of
211 meters.
211 meters, and there's not a lot of wind, and then basically you just jump off and use your kite as a parachute, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
Have you done, I mean, it's probably quite similar to paragliding, I guess, or something like that.
I mean,
have you done other sports that give you that confidence in the air, or is it just from practicing these stunts that you've got that?
I've done a bunch of paragliding and skydiving too. But the main thing is how to control the kite midair, and because there's a lot of things that can go wrong. So what I'm trying to focus on is all the safety. It might not look like it, but I'm all about that. So if anything goes wrong, if I snap a line, if the kite explodes, if anything, So I wanted to put on a parachute, but last minute I decided not to, because maybe I thought that would, because that was like 4 kilos on the side of my harness. maybe that would cause me to go into a
weight.
rotation or something.
Yeah.
I'm not used to
Throw
riding
you
without
off balance. Or,
yeah, exactly.
And 4 kilos is quite a lot.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. And I told myself as soon as the kite is above me, I'll make that decision whether to wear the parachute or not.
Yeah.
So, and I felt good up there. I felt like very confident, and the kite was flying well, and it felt right when the kite was above me. So I decided not to wear the parachute.
And do you have any, like, are your kites having any extra stitching? Are your lines different strengths, or are you just using stock gear from Cabrina?
No, everything was a bit reinforced.
Okay.
Everything from the bar, the board, the foot straps, the lines, the
Everything.
kite. The thing is, you don't want to do double stitching, because that makes double the holes in the kite.
Yeah, so it creates a weak point rather than a strong point.
Exactly. So we did some modification on the kite, but not too much.
Okay.
I did double bridles, double nuts and all that, double lines.
Yeah.
But nothing happened to the gear, like nothing.
It was fine.
I mean, I think there's a bigger chance of something going wrong in a toe up, because there's so much more tension on the lines and on the kite.
Yeah.
When you're gliding down like I did, it's not that bad, you know. I think there's even more tension when you're riding over part on a kite.
Yeah.
Because I'm just a
It's
rock
just a wave of you, I guess.
under the kite, below the kite. So it wasn't that intense. And if I was up in 211 meters doing that from that base jump that I did, I could have done it from 1,000. It would have been the same.
It was the same tension on all the equipment.
Same tension, same height almost. Because if anything goes wrong in that altitude, it would be the same. It would be exactly the same if you jump from 3,000 feet. You know. So I was actually hoping that it was a bit higher, but it wasn't.
It certainly looks high enough. I mean, my next question was going to be, what on earth goes through your mind when you've got all the permits, you've gone to the top of the hotel, you're stood on the helipad, you've pumped the kite up, you've launched the kite, it's above you, and you're like about to jump off. Like, what's going through your mind at that moment? Yeah,
I got that question many times, and I'll stick to my one answer, and that is, as crazy that it might sound, it's not a lot goes through my mind. I'm extremely focused on the whole thing that's about to happen. So if I'm scared, if I'm nervous, if anything, then I would probably just have put my kite down again, or release the kite, because there's no space, there's no time for being nervous. If when I do that with stuff like this, because if you have doubts, if you have anything, it seems to me that then that's when things go wrong for me. So I was just very focused. I was trying to visualize what could go wrong, and like to try and spot my landing, even though it's kind of difficult when you're that high up. So it was not too much, to be honest. Just I was very focused
on
and
the job at hand.
and I was very trying to communicate to the camera crew on the boat, on land, behind me.
I guess you've got all that to think about, right? You've got to be
all
making
that
sure
stuff.
that the cameras are rolling,
Yeah,
because you don't
and
want to be jumping off and then
exactly.
go, you need to do it again, Nick.
Yeah,
You missed it.
and it was all these cameras there. It's the most advanced gear they used. So as soon as they push record, it's so expensive to record. And so they told me count down from 10, and then you should count to 10, and then I can jump. So everything was so tight. We had a window of 25 minutes. We have to close the airspace around the building, all the traffic coming to the building on that little road coming out, and they had to close down the whole hotel for 25 minutes.
Wow.
So that's pretty pricey too. So and I'm like, this is my life, guys. Give me an hour, not 25 minutes. Come on,
I want a bit of time to prepare. I want to make sure everything's
exactly.
okay.
Yeah, but it went well, and we didn't get permits for the drone to be up when I jumped, so I had to go there the next day. We had to film all the rigging up and like all that stuff, me looking down and all that, to make like the story. And as soon as I got my kite up, I got the message that we didn't get permits for the drones. Do you want to go ahead? I'm like, oh man, I've been working on this for 5 years and we don't have drones. This is 2017. Come on,
what's
man.
Going on?
Let's put something up there. And at the end, I was like, you know what? If they don't even film this, if they don't record anything, I'll still be happy. You
still achieved your goal.
I did it. You know. And so I'm like, okay, whatever. And I remember I went, okay, 3, 2, 1, see ya. And then I jumped, and then I looked at all the footage in the evening, and it looked cool, and I was just happy that I achieved that goal that I had in my head for like 5 years, and that was the main thing for me.
Do you feel that you've sort of led yourself down a path with your kite surfing where now you're expected to do these crazy things? Because I know you do a lot of travelling, and obviously your life has probably changed immeasurably from those days in Cambodia to what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Like, do you find that, you know, whenever you go to a place you're expected to jump off something and that's why they're having you there, or do you not feel that pressure so much, or do you enjoy doing that, and is that something that you like doing?
I enjoy it. I don't feel any pressure from anyone, because I think the main thing is my sponsors. If I feel any pressure from them, that would be wrong, I guess, because obviously they don't want me to kill myself. Or injure myself at, you know, so I don't feel any pressure. It's more like a need that I have when we are at a big event like this at the Armada here in the UK. It's just fun to do a toe up like I did just now, 20, 30, 40 meters. It's not that high, it's not that spectacular, but at least we put on a show, you know, and we make, you know, people, you know, happy, and they're cheering on the beach, and I like that, you know. It's cool to create that vibe, and it's crazy that one person can create that vibe. From pulling something that's fairly easy for the guy, to all of a sudden see all these guys coming up to you, asking you questions, and I enjoy that. I really enjoy that. What I find weird is the whole signing stuff, and because I'm not like that myself.
I was going to ask you a question about that, because to give the listeners an idea, Nick and I said we were going to do this interview, and it took a while to set up anyway, because Nick was doing his toe up, and then he's in high demand at this event, and we were just trying to walk from the tent to our van. And I think you had your photo stopped for a photo taken like 4 times. You signed a shirt, you know. Does that get tough?
It doesn't get tough. I mean, come on, what the hell? It's whatever, you know. It's easy. It's easy, you know. I think compared to what I get from kiteboarding, signing and photos and stuff is pretty easy, you know. What I don't understand is why they want it, you know. Because I'm just a regular guy. And I'm skilled in what I do, like you are, like all these listeners. Whatever they do, I'm sure they're good at it. I'm just good at something that I sort of created in a way. And it looks spectacular, and it looks crazy, and so I get why, you know, people want that from you, but I am just a regular guy. That's it, you know. Anyone can walk up to me, ask me anything, and I mean, we both have 2 arms, we both have 2 legs, we both eat, sleep, and, you know, do our stuff. So in that, I think I just have a very humble approach to it. Because we are all the same, without it sounding too
I mean, I think it's,
you know,
it's something I've noticed amongst like all kiteboarders. You know, when you reach a certain level, you obviously get this attention, and you obviously get people coming up to you and wanting your autograph and stuff, and I think everyone takes it in really good stride and realises that, hey, that's part of the job. And
I think what people don't get about me is that when I ask about them, they're not used to that, like a famous guy asking
to know what they're up to.
Because I mean, they ask me all these questions, and I don't feel obligated to ask them back, but I'm like, so do you live here? Why are you here? What are you doing at this event? And oh, it's a cool van you have. Can the roof pop open? Like all these questions that I have, and because I'm a curious guy, and I would like to know all this.
Freaking them out.
And then all of a sudden, this random dude from wherever, he's like, "Huh, who the hell is this guy? Why does he want to know all this stuff about me?" And I like that, you know. It makes people feel good around you too, you know. Because they are trying. I mean, a lot of people are trying to show their best of themselves when they meet. I mean, if you met Denzel Washington or like you would want to show the best of you. You know, you would. It's not like, hey man, how's it going? You're like, oh hey, I'm a big fan of you. Like blah blah blah, and so that's what people are doing. And I would like to meet them. I would like to show them a great respect too, and show the best of me. But obviously, I mean, you can't do that all day because it wears you down at the end. But it's easy. For me, it's easy. It is.
It's not a problem.
No, not at all.
What's the hardest thing about being Nick Jacobsen now compared to being Nick Jacobsen in Cambodia when nobody really knew who you were?
I think the traveling.
Yeah.
Because I do travel a lot, and it's hard to. I think what like the expectations of my sponsors, and I meet them all the time, and but definitely being away from family, friends, girlfriend, stuff like that at home, because I don't have those routines that other people might have.
Yeah.
Like I don't. It's not that I want it, but I don't have it. I just don't
Yeah.
have it. So it's. I think it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause I haven't tried it for so many years. Like waking up at 8 o'clock, going to work at 9 or whatever. I haven't tried that. But I would like a bit more structure and a bit more of a routine in my life, and I don't have that. I have my routines when I'm flying. I have my headphones. I have like spare batteries every time I sit down. I change my battery, put the seatbelt on, and then I listen to a podcast, and then I fall asleep. Then I wake up, I watch a movie, I do some work, and then I land. I arrive.
Yeah.
So in
Got
terms
routines
of
within your
definitely,
role, but not a life
exactly
routine
And
around what you're doing each day.
And I feel like a lot of people they don't. I mean, when they look at my life, I travel a lot, and I was in the Bahamas just now, and then I was in Egypt, then I was in Cape Town, in Sicily. I was up in Australia. I mean, I travel all the time, and it looks great.
Yeah.
And from the outside, from people going to work every day, and it looks amazing. And don't get me wrong, it is. It really is amazing. But it's tough sometimes.
Yeah. I understand that.
Because then you travel to Argentina and you meet all these guys, this group of people, and you're there for only like 4 days, and you get, especially a guy like me who's very curious and I'm very involving with people. Then I become their best friend for 3 or 4 days, and then after that I'm off to a different event. I'm like, see you guys, maybe not ever again.
And I guess that because you're sort of making friends everywhere you go, but you don't know if they're lifelong friends or friends for 3 days.
Yeah.
Or,
So that's a bit weird, It's hard to deal with sometimes. But and then I fly back to Denmark and I see all my friends there, and then it's all like the same. And that's why I try to fly out of Denmark now.
Yeah.
Like, I would come here, I would fly back to Denmark, then I would spend like 7 hours there, and then Barcelona, and then so a lot of traveling, and it makes it a bit hard for a person like me, I would say.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, it's tough. It does look like a great lifestyle from the outside, and of course it is a fantastic lifestyle, and we're so lucky and blessed to be able to do what we do. But at the same time, when you haven't been home for months on end,
you miss it.
It makes it difficult to have that kind of normality in your life. And then
I remember last year, or I think it was 2016 maybe, I was home for 2 weeks.
Wow.
In total, like a day here, 2 days there, because I was just on the go all the time. And that was fun,
Yeah.
I loved it, but now reflecting back on that, I don't like to live like that, because you don't have any ground, you don't have any so I'm trying to change that a bit.
You spend a lot of time in Cape Town in the winters. Does that feel a little bit like home for you when
Definitely,
you go there?
yeah. Cape Town is my second home.
Yeah.
I've been there since I was 6.
Yeah.
Because my dad moved there when I was 6 years old, and so I've been there every winter since I was 6. And then I only started kiting 10 years later, when I was 16. So that definitely feels like a second home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I'm there, I have all my good friends, and they know that I kite, but they don't really give a shit about it. They're just like, yeah, you kite, whatever. I have my job, and they're real friends.
Yeah.
They don't see you as this legend or whatever, and
They just see you
I
as
like
Nick.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's your school, the people that you grew up with, they know who you are. They're not bothered by anything.
Yeah,
And
they saw Nick. They knew Nick before
he was
all this
famous.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
in a way.
You've spent a bit of time with Richard Branson over on Necker Island.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Because Necker has this sort of mystical thing. Richard obviously does a lot of kiting, and he does a lot of promotion for the sport because he does it and he gets a massive wider audience. And then he's got his island where he's got his water sports centre and stuff like that, and a few people are fortunate enough to travel there.
Yeah.
How did it come about, and how did you get into that sort of side of things?
I was invited to his island in 2015.
Yeah.
And for my time.
Yeah.
For entrepreneur/kite event.
Yeah.
And I was up in Alaska doing a trip with a few friends, fishing and kiting and just having fun. And I got the invite from Susie Mai,
Yeah.
and she emailed me and she's like, "Hey, we have an open spot if you want to fly down. You have to be here tomorrow at 10 o'clock."
Wow.
And I'm in the middle of nowhere in Alaska.
In Alaska.
Yeah, we just found internet at this petrol station.
And you've got to get to the Caribbean.
I'm like, okay, it's on. I would love to
I
go
mean, that's
there.
a hell of an opportunity,
Yeah.
right? You're not going to pass it up.
Exactly.
So
So
I'm just going to carry on fishing.
yeah, exactly. Fly fishing in Alaska. So we drove straight to Anchorage, and I bought a ticket to the Caribbean. I flew in, and they picked me up in this crazy boat. We went to the island, and I met all the people, and I knew a lot of the people already. I never met Branson before.
Okay.
I heard of him, but he wasn't like, oh, I have to meet this guy
Yeah.
at all. He was just,
Just
and
a guy,
again,
two arms,
another
two
guy.
legs.
Yeah. So I went there, and we had dinner in the evening, and I sat next to him. Susie actually put me next to him.
Okay.
So we're just chatting along, and I knew he was this entrepreneurial dude, and with his own airline and private jets and all these
Billionaire.
thousands of companies that he started, and we're just chatting, and I think me being very humble about it and not like, so what's it like to be Richard Branson?
Yeah.
I was more like, so got
Interesting.
any kiting done, or what's it like kiting here? And he was chatting about it, and at the end I was like, Jesus Christ, this guy, he can talk about kiting. And
He kites.
I was like, let's talk about something else. So I asked him about the coral reefs around Necker, how how they're doing and all that, and we're just chatting for like 3 hours, and all these people are looking at us all the time. And I remember Susie coming up, and she was like, "Hey, you guys okay?" Yeah,
fine.
Yeah, we're good. We're just chatting, and then all of a sudden, this guy Joby, he came up, and he was like, "Hey, Richard, you gotta see this video." And then he showed Richard, when I sat next to him, the video of me jumping off the crane.
Oh, wow.
And then this guy Joby, this American dude that I know for many years, he goes, he can probably do the same thing off your island tomorrow if you want. And Richard, he just looks at me. He's like, "Do you want to do that? Can you do that?" Yeah. I mean, let's have a look. I don't want to say yes now, but let's go and have a look. And I woke up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I walked up and down that cliff where I had to clear like a big zip line and like forest and all these palm trees and stuff, and it was kind of sheltered when so I went. I had one of those flares that wingsuiters and base jumpers they use, so
you can
I
see what the
popped
wind's
that,
doing.
and then the smoke kind of stayed there. It didn't just dissolve. It would stay there, and it would show me like the turbulences and all that stuff. And I concluded that it was pretty, doable. And I told Richard that, "Hey, are you cool with this?" And yeah, I'm just gonna call this guy, and he's gonna just make a waiver for you to sign. And he, I looked at the waiver. I'm like, this is so homemade.
Yeah.
I was loving.
I thought it was going to be some super big legal thing.
Yeah, like
that he'd
75
got,
pages and
75
stuff.
pages
Yeah.
if you're jumping off my
It
island.
was
and
what, like-
literally like handwritten.
Yeah, exactly. It was 1/3 of a A4 page.
If you kill yourself, I'm not liable,
and,
basically.
like the grammar and all that, it was like way off. And like, yeah, whatever. And then he signed, I signed, and I went up there and I jumped. And then I came in, and he actually ran down to the beach where I was supposed to come in. And I came in, and he was like, "Man, Nick, that was amazing. What you just did there, that was amazing. If I could do that, I would have, but I'm just simply too old, and I'm not that skilled as you are in your field. So respect."
Yeah.
And then I think from then on, he just lived a bit through me.
Okay.
Like everything that I do, he's sharing it on his social platforms, and
Oh, wow.
I
So
became a really good friend of it with his son, Sam Branson. And we had a bender a few years ago, and Sam was like, "I'm not jealous on you, but I like
You're
that
like
my dad, he's like trying to
second
live
son
his
almost,
he's like living his crazy life through you and me, and you know, he's being very polite." So I think from then on, like him discovering the amount of work that I put into like a jump from his island, and like a minor thing.
Seeing it
and
was a professional thing. That you didn't just go,
professional
I'll go
approach.
and jump off it.
Yeah.
You went up there, you scoped it out, you had the flares,
exactly.
and he's like, "Oh wow, this guy's serious.
Yeah,
Like, this
exactly.
guy's not just a crazy guy who's just doing
Right.
crazy stuff. He's actually calculated, making decisions and looking at it professionally."
Exactly. So from then on, we just been in contact on email, and he called me when I broke my ankle, and he was like, "If I can help you with anything, rehabilitation, or if you want to fly into Necker, you want to spend, some time there, and just not think about anything. And
Yeah.
he's been very supportive, very, very helpful. And he's almost more like a friend than a sponsor now, because he sponsors me too. And he's just a guy that I can email, and within 2 or 3 days he would reply, and at the signature at the end it goes sent from my iPad. So it's not even his PA who's and it's cool.
Like
it's
that.
cool. Yeah, I really respect him for that.
Yeah.
And I guess, I mean, he doesn't really write his own emails.
Yeah.
But to friends and to like minor stuff in his life, I guess he does.
He does.
Because the grammar is totally off, and I mean, he is dyslexic. What dyslexic?
Yeah, dyslexic. Dyslexic.
So it's I found him. I emailed him back in Cape Town when I did the tow up with the Brunel team, and I asked him if he wanted to be a part of it, because the Brunel team didn't have too much cash, and they had a tight budget. And I asked him, hey, do you want to tip in with a bit, and do you want to support this? It's going to be a world record. And he was all about it, and he was like, hey, I wish I could fly in, but he was in Finland or something, doing a talk or whatever. And he was like, yeah, how much do you need? And I named an amount, and he was like, yeah, let's do it.
Perfect.
So he's I feel like when I approach him with a small, I wouldn't approach him, put it that way. I'm not gonna approach him with a small little thing.
Yeah.
It has to be like a world record, or something extraordinary.
If you're listening, this was a world record, not even an attempt, because you did it.
Yeah.
And you got the Brunei sailing boat.
Yeah.
And it towed you up how high?
277 meters.
277 meters, and then you release and you
fly
parachute
down.
down and fly
pretty much.
down.
Yeah.
And that must have been quite challenging, because I know normally when people do tow ups, and this is where you pull a kiteboarder with a rope behind a boat or a car or whatever, and it lifts them up into the air. They use a motorboat, and that's obviously a lot easier to control. A sailing boat, you can't just stop it or turn the engines off.
That's it. No.
So that must have been quite logistical to make that happen.
Oh man, it was a nightmare, to be honest. Because I need communications between the safety boat, the tow boat, the operator who's doing the winch on the boat, and all that, and I need to stay focused
on what you're doing.
On what I'm doing. So it was quite challenging, and it took me like 4 or 5 times before, because I had a release system on my back that paragliders they use for tow ups.
Yeah.
So as soon as you almost look at that release, and it releases. So it was very, very hard, and I teamed up with Jason Furness, who's a legend in my eyes, and he was one of the first kiteboarders in the UK, and I teamed up with him, and he helped me with all the logistics. He helped me with all the, comms and emails back and forth, and he was very he was on the job.
Yeah.
And so if it wasn't for him, it probably would have happened, but logistic-wise and just timing-wise and everything, he made it so much easier for me.
Yeah.
To Nick, you deal with your stuff. I'll take care of the rest. Yeah, a fun thing to do.
That was cool. And then you touched on it a little bit earlier, and I know we spoke about it in Sicily. I mean, you recently had a pretty horrific injury.
Yeah.
Was that the first kind of major injury that you've had that's taken you off the water?
Definitely.
So how hard, I mean, firstly, what did you do to yourself, and how did you do it? But also, how hard was that to deal with?
Yeah. I did a trip up the west coast in Cape Town with my buddy Graham.
Yeah, that's Graham Howes, right?
Graham Howes,
Dirty Habits, yeah.
Dirty Habits, bad influence. A really good friend, but bad influence. Yeah. And we did a trip up the west coast, and the wind picked up. We weren't really supposed to kite on that trip, but as soon as you go without kites, it always picks up, and it's incredible. So we thought, let's just
take
bring
kites anyway.
Kites, and so obviously the wind picked up, and I was riding a 12. I did 50 flat threes, and on the 57th flat three, I came around, and I'll give you the footage, so if you want to upload it or something,
we can share it. Yeah.
I just landed on a piece of chop or whatever. I came around, and I landed on my back leg, and broke my fibula in half. It sits down by the ankle, and all the ligaments in my foot, and dislocated my heel.
Wow.
So it was quite an injury, and I could feel it straight away.
Yeah,
that something
you knew it was bad.
Was wrong.
Yeah.
Because
Are you pretty far from civilization if you're on a trip up the west coast, or?
Yeah, 2.5 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, but when we do, stuff like a trip like that, I always bring, a whole pharmacy just to make sure that I can
happens.
Yeah, shut down everything and just sleep in the car until I wake up in a hospital. So that's pretty much what happened. And I woke up and I was at the hospital, and the guy looked at my ankle, and it was, massive, like 2 ankles. An ankle sitting on my ankle, pretty much. It was crazy big. I'll send you some photos too.
Yeah, that'd be good. We'll link to those.
Yeah, and the guy, he looked at it and he moved it a bit around, and I was screaming like a little girl. It was so painful. And he told me, well, you need surgery. And from then on, I realized, okay, this is not good.
Yeah.
I know that my good friend Kevin Langery, he had a similar injury a year before me.
Yeah.
And he told me, don't worry, it's only 2 months or something. But it was a bit of a different injury. My one, it was the guy, the surgeon. He looked at it and he said, well, this is gonna take between 4 and 6 months before you can ride, and an entire year before it's 100% again.
Wow.
And then I didn't really listen, I guess, because I was like, yeah, you can say what you want, but let's see. I always have my hopes up pretty high, and I had surgery, and post surgery, I had a few people looking at it, including a very legitimate Red Bull guy.
Yeah.
And he also told me that it's pretty bad. And I was in bed for 3.5 weeks,
Whoa.
Ankle elevated above my heart at all time. And
wow.
I was just in bed, trying to justify watching a series on a Monday evening or Monday morning, because I never do that.
Yeah.
And at the end, I became very productive on emails and catching up with people. And you know what? I think in total I had an hour where I was like, okay, this is bad. This is bad. Other than that, I've been super positive, and I have great friends and family and a super supportive girlfriend, and it wasn't that hard, I was just like, well, sweet, I don't have to travel that much,
Get some routine in my life.
Yeah, exactly. So, from being in bed, peeing in a bottle for freaking 4 weeks, to next phase was, walking around on crutches, to the phase where I'm now. Now I can walk, I can carry stuff, I'm not on crutches anymore, I can actually ride, but I can't, like the other day in Denmark, it was pretty windy, and I decided not to go because I was just too scared.
Yeah.
I felt like if I went, I would have gone for like a massive kite loop board off or something, and then you break your ankle again. Yeah. So
you're being sensible about it and
very,
restricting the temptation, I guess, to send it.
And it's funny because all these people are like, so you're taking it very easy, like compared to a crazy guy that you are. And I think that's just another example of me not being that crazy of a guy. I know I do crazy stuff, and from people's perspectives. Yeah. But from my perspective, it's not crazy. It's very well planned. It's very well thought through. And I didn't party last night because I needed to talk to you today, because otherwise it would be like totally quiet. I would just be like, can you repeat that?
I actually didn't stay out too late either, and kept things fairly sensible. Yeah. Fairly sensible. I knew I had to speak. It was mainly because I knew I had to speak to Pete this morning. And
not me.
Well, I knew I could speak to you with a hangover, Nick, because I know what you're like. But I was like, if I rock up smelling a booze to Pete, then that's not going to look good.
You're done.
So that's kind of interesting that you've been sort of, having to focus around the injury. What stage of the recovery at now? You mentioned it's like a year before it's going to be 100%. Yeah. How long are we into it now?
I think I'm at 8 out of 10, I would say.
Okay.
And it's funny how things in your mind and in my, perspective of, being a professional kiteboarder and trying to achieve something that no one has ever done before. And has it changed anything? Nope. not really. I probably won't do too many flat threes or any too much freestyle anymore. Yeah. Because it's not worth my injury, and I'm not a freestyle type of guy. If it was, anyone like Liam or anyone else, they have to.
Yeah, that's what they do.
I don't have to. I do it for the fun of it. I can easily do a handlepass. It would take me like a few days to train up for a double handlepass. But that's not my thing, you know.
Yeah.
What I do, I try to like kite in a swimming pool, in small ponds, just to make kiteboarding look like
Something
what I
different.
think is kiteboarding.
Yeah.
It's not like I don't think a freestyle backmope isn't kiteboarding, because it is, whatever, you know. But for me, we can use the kite as a parachute, as a lift. So why not do that?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I have
different.
anything against, you know, slim chances and blind judges and all the freestyle stuff. I think that's cool, but I just like to use the kite in a different way.
Yeah, and do something different with it. You've sort of get on to the sort of last question, but something I wanted to ask you about was you've had a big relationship with the Red Bull King of the Air event, which is arguably the biggest event in kiteboarding at the moment and has been for several years. Obviously, you broke your ankle just before that event this year.
Yeah.
How painful was that to know that you wouldn't be able to compete in arguably the event that is the event for you, if you like?
Yeah.
It's like it's made for you, that event. It's big air, it's kite loops, it's how you ride.
Yeah.
Was that a tough thing, the timing of it?
It's can you swear on this podcast?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I think when I won in 2017, I won King of the Air.
Yeah.
I obviously wanted to win it again, but I would rather, you know, show the people what I think kiteboarding is about.
Yeah.
Have a great heat. If I did a 10 out of 10, if I was the judge and I judged my heat and I did a 10 out of 10,
you'd be happy.
And I got a second place, I'd still be happy.
Yeah.
Definitely, like no doubt. So me winning the first time, no one can ever take that away from me.
Yeah.
I won it.
You've
I have
got
the
that
trophy
crown.
back at my mom's place, and you know, so it's.
Aren't those things made of bits of animal and a bit stinky and a bit? I know Aaron.
That's why I gave it to my mom.
Aaron's not allowed to have his trophy in his house. Like
Really?
Danny won't let him have the trophy in the house because it's like they're sort of very African. These trophies,
Yeah,
I guess,
yeah,
is what
they
you'd
are.
say.
Yeah,
It's kind
it
of
was
like a sort of
not easy
African
to bring
tribal
it.
trophy.
Yeah, when I brought it through customs and stuff, they stopped me and they're like, so Red Bull they printed out a form for me to show, and they're like, oh, cool. So you won that competition? Because everyone in Cape Town, they know about this competition, is, you know. And but anyway, coming back to the subject, was that I didn't give a shit about winning again.
Okay.
And
You've
so
got it. You've done it.
I've done it. I've proven myself if that what I had to do. I was really happy when I won. I mean, it was a great achievement in my kiteboarding career, and being the most prestigious event of all time in kiteboarding, and me winning that. Like,
That's crazy.
wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I won against Aaron Hadlow,
Yeah.
Ruben, Yuri, like all these legends,
World
Kevin,
champions.
Jesse, Lasse, like I'm like, and I was the guy who ended up on top. Jesus, wild, you know. So I didn't. When I broke my ankle 12 days before the event, obviously I was a bit bummed, and I wanted to show off because I love showing off.
Yeah.
That's my thing, and I was more bummed about that. Than not competing. Yeah.
So the fact that you weren't able to show your skills to the crowd and
Exactly.
throw down some.
I
huge
wanted to
leaps
show that because I want people to start kiteboarding and realize how much fun it is. And I believe that I am able to show that throughout my riding, and that's what I wanted to do at the event, especially when there's like live stream, 250,000 people watching, and if not even more, and the whole beach's just packed. It hypes you up when you're on the water. So. But being on the side of things this year, I had my family there. My girlfriend, she flew down when I broke my ankle, and it was great. You know, I was cheering for my friends. I was like writing down all the tricks, all the heats, and I was, you know,
mind judging.
Yeah. And I was, you know what? I was very surprised with the judges. They advanced people like I would have. And I was very honored. I might have been on morphine at that time, so a bit out there. But but I'm like, I think Jesse, he won that heat, and then so the guy who advances to fourth round is Jesse Richmond. I'm like, oh sweet,
awesome.
You know. So I was just following the whole thing on the side, and that was interesting. I didn't at any time feel like, hey, I want to be out there. I was in so much pain. So I was just, you know, enjoying being on the side.
For once.
Yeah.
You said something really interesting there, which I think would be a nice point to end on, and that's that you want to show people that kiteboarding is really good fun.
Everyone wants to. Everyone wants to.
That's a really nice attitude to have, you
Yeah.
know, that you want to show people that kiteboarding is awesome,
Uh-huh.
and that's great. So yeah, I really like that attitude.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, your attitude to kiteboarding and what you've done for the sport and how you've opened it up to the masses is a fantastic thing, Nick. So, yeah, kiteboarding's fun and everyone should do it. Thank you very much, Nick. That was a really great little conversation. I enjoyed that. That was perfect.
There we have it. Episode 1 in the bag, and what a fantastic guest Nick was. If you've enjoyed this, then please subscribe, tell your friends about it, share it on social media, and spread the word. Until next week, you've been listening to Rou Chater and the Intriguing Beings podcast. Thank you.